Friends, how's it going? I hope it's great. One, I miss your faces. So, I decided to create a little project in which I could see your beautiful faces while you're also doing geometry. So, this week is going to look a little different. So, I'm here to explain what your assignments are. You're going to be doing a project in which you find something around the house to measure and then calculate the surface area and the volume of. I'll explain how you are going to fill out that information and what I'm looking for. So that is your first assignment of this week. Yay! Second assignment, you have a test. Yay! I had originally said it would be on Pearson, but when I looked on Pearson at the Unit 7 questions, they're terrible. So it's going to be on Google Classroom. It's going to look a lot like my tests normally do, but on Google Classroom. It will be a mix of multiple choice and some free response where you have to type in the numbers. Okay, so you have two assignments. So on Google Classroom, I'm going to post those as two separate assignments just so that they pop up on your screen. Hey, make sure you complete each one of these. Okay, so the first thing you should do is watch this video of me explaining the project. Once you're done with that, complete your project, and then you can work on reviewing for your test, which I will have a review posted on the other Google Classroom assignment, and then you can take your test on GradeCam. And please let me know if you have questions about anything at all. Send me an email or come see me on our live Microsoft Teams sessions. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to go right here to our, let me make sure you can see this. I hope you can. To our Google Classroom explanation here. Again, watch this video first as I explain the rubric. Read the rubric carefully. Okay, so here's the rubric. There it is. You're going to post a short video of you measuring your chosen that's not the right rubric, sorry. Boop, boop, ignore that. Let's find the correct rubric that I updated. Did I update it? Okay, well, anyway, this is redundant, so that's not supposed to be there. Okay, so you are going to post a short video or picture, but I prefer a video, okay, of you measuring your chosen geometric object. So let's talk about that, shall we? The chosen geometric object could be anything. Here we go. Here's a great example here. Look at that. This is a rectangular prism. Could be that. Or maybe it's a sphere, like this yoga ball. How would you measure this? Well, very carefully, you would actually need the radius of this. That's hard to do because I can't get inside this sphere. So I can take my fancy tape measure and go all the way around the great circle of this and find the circumference, divide that by 2, and then divide that by pi. Otherwise, you would have to guesstimate the diameter and cut that in half. So you may not get a super accurate answer doing that. Okay. Or you could do a cylinder. Although you'd probably have to subtract away the volume of the inside cylinder. But look at that. Toilet paper. Height. Woo. And then, again, I would estimate here the diameter and then cut that in half to get an accurate radius. Boom. That's a great example. Or you could find a hexagon. And look at that, it's 3-dimensional. So this would be a hexagonal prism. What should I measure here? Well, you definitely need this here. That would be the height of the prism. And we also need the length of each side of that hexagon, which can help us find the apothem. Or you can estimate the apothem if you don't want to do those calculations. Okay, I know you all have hexagons lying around. So as you can see, there's lots of things around the house that you could measure and use. I'm going to use as my example as I go through this rubric, this cylinder. Okay, so let's go back to the rubric really fast just to make sure we're good. All right, once you determine what figure you're going to be using, when you go to Google Classroom, there will be a 3D project Google Sheets, right? That there's a copy for each student, so I went ahead and made a copy for myself. Okay, so you would put your name right here. I put my name there, Miss Coffee. All right, then you would fill in the rest of this. Okay, so you would pick which figure you're using, cylinder. Okay, so I'm just going to put an X here for that. Okay, let's make it a different color so then when Miss Coffee grades it, it'll be easy to read. Okay. If you had something like a prism, like the hexagon I showed you, you would type here, hexagonal prism. Okay? Or if you find a pyramid, make sure you state what kind of pyramid it is, like a square pyramid. Okay? Or maybe it's a pentagonal pyramid or whatever. For a cylinder, cone, and a sphere, there's nothing specific about those, so you can just put an X if that's what you're choosing. All right, then you go down here. And you got to do your dimensions, okay? So you would fill in, take your tape measure, or maybe you have a ruler, or if you don't have either a tape measure or a ruler, I'm pretty sure your HSPVA planner has a ruler on the back of it or the front of it. And if you don't have one of those, be creative. Go to Google, say, Google, find me a measuring tool that you could print out, or even just kind of hold up on your screen and you could hold this and measure. Or you can use an app. Sometimes they have those fancy apps that measure things for you. So be creative, okay? You can choose whatever measurements you want to use, whether it's centimeters, inches, whatever. I'm going to use inches for mine. All right, so since this is a cylinder, what I really need is the two things. I need the height and the radius. So I'm going to do the radius first and measure the diameter and divide by 2. So if the diameter is 4 inches, then that means the radius is going to be 2. Okay, so I'm going to jot all this down fairly neatly on a piece of paper here because I'm going to need to take a picture of this and upload my work. Okay, dimensions are, you're going to be filling those in here. So for example, the radius, again, I'm going to do this in another color. I'm going to put 2 inches. Okay, I'm going to make all these centered. Okay, so we have 2 inches for the radius. Okay, and then we also need the height of the cylinder. So let's measure that. Here to down here. All right, the height of this cylinder looks like it's about 8.25. All right, so I'm going to copy that right here, 8.25 inches. Okay. And none of these apply. So you don't have a slant height unless you're using a cone or a pyramid. For these base edges, that's going to be for any of your prisms. So I did rectangular or square prisms, but if you have something unique like a hexagonal prism, or I guess this would also be for pyramids as well. So whatever your base is on a prism, that's what you want to put there. So if this was like, for example, a rectangular prism, you could do a tissue box, you could do anything like that. This one's a little interesting because you can choose what your height is. So you can say, I want this to be my height, which is fine. And then on the bottom for this rectangle, this dimension would be the first base edge, and then this dimension would be your second base edge. Okay, so rectangular prisms have a little bit more flexibility with your dimensions, but there's only going to be 3 dimensions for a rectangular prism. For a cylinder and a cone, you're only going to have 2 dimensions. No, for a cone, you'll have 3. But cylinder only 2, and a sphere you would just have the 1 dimension. So I don't need any of these here, so I'm going to leave those blank. Okay, sound good? Makes sense? Okay. All right, so now we're ready to do our calculations. So let me go back to our rubric here, just to make sure. Oh, say hi to Mr. Labrie. Oh, thank you. That's very nice. And then, okay, bye. Okay, so then we have our radius. Let's go here. We said was 2 inches. So I'm going to go to my handy dandy notebook right here. There you go. Okay. And I'm doing this like in a dark pen, so when you take a picture of it, you can see it really clearly. Okay. So then our radius for surface area is 2 inches and height is 8.25. And then 2 pi times the radius squared. Okay. And then we'll do the same thing for the volume. If you're wondering what these formulas are, you can go back in your notes, but also for you to use on your test this week, look at the other Google Classroom assignment, and I've posted on there a list of all the formulas that you need to know, going through all pyramids, prisms, cones, cylinders, spheres, and surface area and volume of each of those. Okay, and lateral area, obviously. Okay. So I'm going to do those calculations. So I'm going to pause that and come back. Okay, so guys, now that I've finished my calculations, I'm going to take a picture of it. My suggestion would be to take a picture in portrait style, so that's vertical, not horizontal, because it's easier when you upload it here. So I took a picture of both my surface area work and my volume work. So to insert that, you go up here to Insert. Come on. And Image. You can do image in cell or image over cells. So if you do image over cells, let me look for that. It's going to be wherever you saved it. Let's see, I did my desktop. Okay. It's going to, for me, it's going to have a really large picture. So probably if you're doing the same thing that I am with your phone. Oh, no, it's not very large. Okay. And so you can just kind of put that there. Not really sure. This is a Google form, so I don't know how to crop that image, but you can figure it out how to crop it. You can. I don't want to waste time with that. So you can make it smaller to fit, or you can, probably what's easiest is to make this bigger. Okay. So then that way I can kind of see it. Another thing you could do is when you're inserting it, there's the option to put the image in the cell. Okay. And so that one might be a little bit easier to do. Whoops. Volume. And that'll just kind of size it however, whatever the size of your cell is. So I'm going to make it a little bigger so Miss Coffee can read it. Okay. All right. So now we have our work shown, only because it's just too hard to type all that. So that's why I wanted you to do it that way. Yes, if you want to use the draw function on your computer, you can. Just make sure that it's very easy to read and I can kind of follow your work. All right. And then the second thing you want to do is actually add in your final answer here. So for me, I got 102.1, and then that's inches squared. I'm not going to put that in here, but hopefully you know. And then volume is 103.7 inches cubed. So I'm just going to put that right there. I'm going to do that in my fancy pretty color so Miss Coffee can read it really easily. Okay. So that's what I'm looking for there. You'll notice, even though this was a cylinder, I did not leave it in terms of pi. And that's just because, one, it's hard to type pi on your calculator. So that's really the only reason, actually. So I would, if you're doing a cylinder, a sphere, or cone, just keep it in, not in terms of pi, but leave it as a decimal rounded to the nearest 10th place. If it's anything that doesn't involve pi, you can just round again to the nearest 10th. Try to be as accurate as you can when you're doing your measurements. Just one last thing, you want to make sure that I can access this. So if you click on the share button in the top right, if it says here, we don't want that, we want to get the shareable link, which will share it with automatically anyone at Houston Independent School District, which I would be able to access. Or if you want to just type in my email address here, that's fine as well. So you just want to make sure I can access it. And then when you go to Google Classroom, before you turn in, you want to make sure you're doing this here and taking a short video. So all I'm looking for is something like this. Hey, Miss Coffee, I'm going to find the surface area and volume of this Clorox cylinder. Here's me doing measurements. La 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 la. I miss your face. Here's a picture of my puppy. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Take a video, add it on here, and then turn in. Let me know if you have questions, guys.